Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a story we call The Package of Hope. It's this incredible, real-life narrative that kicks off with an exhausted delivery driver on a miserable night, and it ends with a profound life lesson that honestly applies to absolutely every single one of us. We're going to dive into how one tiny, seemingly insignificant choice can echo out and literally change multiple lives.
So let's just drop right into the action. Picture this. It's a quiet neighborhood just outside of Chicago. The time is exactly 11:47 p.m. 32-year-old Ethan Miller is behind the wheel of his old delivery van, and man, he is at his absolute physical and emotional breaking point. He's driving through this relentless, blinding rain, and he just wants the day to be over. The odds are completely stacked against him here. The rain is pouring in sheets. Visibility is awful. He looks down at his phone, and the battery is clinging to life at like 3%. To make matters worse, the gas gauge is hovering right on empty. He's literally running on fumes. And sitting on the passenger seat is exactly one final delivery. It's only 10 minutes away, but it would be so incredibly easy to just call it quits, right? To just say, you know what, I'll do it tomorrow. But Ethan sighs, stares at that cardboard box, and decides to just push through for one last stop. He pulls up to a small, dark, completely silent house at the end of the street. Now, Ethan actually knows this customer. The name on the package is Mrs. Eleanor Parker. He's delivered to her house dozens of times over the years. But tonight, something's off. There are no lights on, no cars in the driveway. The whole vibe just feels strangely heavy. He walks up to the front porch, sets the package down, and knocks. Nothing. He knocks a second time. Still nothing. But just as he turns around to head back to the van, he hears it. A faint, desperate cry for help coming from inside the house. Ethan jiggles the handle, and surprisingly, it's unlocked. He steps inside the dark house and finds Eleanor lying totally helpless on her kitchen floor. She'd fallen hours ago, couldn't stand up, and her phone was completely out of reach. Ethan immediately dials 911, grabs a blanket to wrap around her, and just sits right there on the floor with her while they wait for the ambulance. And as they're waiting, this incredibly poignant moment happens. Eleanor looks up at him, clearly bewildered, and whispers, "You're not supposed to be here." Ethan just gives her a gentle smile and says, "I know, but I guess I was supposed to be here tonight." It really highlights this crazy, almost fateful timing of him choosing to make that one final delivery. Which brings us to the next chapter, the secret package, a delivery that was never meant to be sent. The very next morning, Ethan drags himself into work. He's exhausted, but he just can't get Eleanor out of his head. Suddenly, his supervisor calls him into the office and says, "Hey, there was a problem with yesterday's delivery." Ethan's heart completely drops. But then, his supervisor places a box on the desk. It's the exact same package Ethan had dropped off the night before, and his boss drops an absolute bombshell. "We found out this package was never supposed to be delivered." Well, wait a minute. If it wasn't supposed to go out, why on earth was it sent? So they open it up, and inside this box is basically a puzzle. The sequence of three highly unexpected things. First, an old, worn envelope. Second, tucked inside that envelope is a handwritten letter. And shockingly, the letter is addressed directly to Ethan. Finally, along with the letter, there's a small brass key attached to a little note that simply says, "Come to the address on the key." With his hands literally shaking, Ethan opens the letter. It starts like this: "To the young man who stopped when everyone else would have kept driving." Eleanor writes that ever since her husband passed away and with her only son living across the country, she had spent years feeling completely invisible to the world. But every single time Ethan dropped off a package, he actually treated her like a human being. He always took a few seconds to ask, "Hey, are you doing okay today?" Ethan had no idea the immense weight those simple words carried for her. Her letter finishes with this incredibly powerful realization. She says, "I know you think you're only delivering packages, but sometimes you're delivering hope." Now we reach the true test of character, a hidden observer and a life-changing reward. Remember that small, mysterious key? Well, it's about to completely flip Ethan's reality upside down. He follows the address on the key to this grand, historic building right downtown. He walks into the lobby and is greeted by an older gentleman named Daniel, who turns out to be Eleanor's attorney. And Daniel reveals something that leaves Ethan entirely speechless. Eleanor actually owns this massive building. Even crazier, she had been quietly keeping tabs on Ethan's kindness for months. Not to be creepy or malicious, but because she just wanted to see if genuine, unprompted goodness still existed in the world. The scale of Eleanor's gratitude here is just mind-blowing. Think about Ethan's current state. He is struggling financially, perpetually exhausted, literally just scraping by week to week.
And then look at Eleanor's offer. A legitimate management position, a massively higher salary, full health insurance, and the opportunity to eventually run the entire property. She knew he was too proud to accept a giant check, so instead she offered him a future. It really puts into perspective how one tiny choice to step inside a dark house completely rewrote the trajectory of his entire life.
Ethan is overwhelmed, as you would be. He goes straight to the hospital to see Eleanor. He sits down next to her bed and asks the exact question we're all thinking. Why me? Why did you do all this? She explains that a long time ago someone helped her when she had absolutely nothing, and she made a promise to pay it forward. But Ethan pushes back. Yeah, but why me? And her answer? It unlocks the entire moral core of this story. She just looks at him and says, because you didn't know anyone was watching.
And that right there hits the nail on the head. It all comes down to true character. We've all heard the phrase, but seeing it play out in real life is something else. Character is not a performance for an audience. It's not the fake, polite smile you paste on when the boss walks by. It is the raw goodness, the integrity, and the empathy you show when you think you are entirely alone and there's zero chance of a reward. Ethan acted out of pure character on that stormy night.
Let's look at the third part, the ripple effect. Kindness getting passed on. We're going to jump forward 5 years to see how this one isolated act of kindness cascades into a massive legacy. Ethan is no longer driving that beat-up van. He's now the highly successful manager of that beautiful downtown building. But the coolest part? He never forgot where he came from. He started these incredible new traditions, proving Eleanor's gift wasn't just to him, it was to the whole community. Now, every single Christmas, he anonymously pays the rent for a few struggling families. Every Thanksgiving, he delivers hot meals to elderly folks who live alone. And on rainy nights, if an exhausted delivery driver wanders into his lobby, he throws open the doors and offers them a warm place to take a break.
And then, sure enough, one rainy evening, the cycle repeats itself perfectly. Enter Mike. He's a young delivery driver who walks into Ethan's lobby to drop something off, and he is the exact mirror image of Ethan from 5 years ago. He is dead on his feet, his shoes are soaked through, his phone is practically dead. Ethan takes one look at the kid, smiles, asks him his name, and hands him a steaming hot cup of coffee.
Mike takes the coffee, looks around at this gorgeous, grand building, and just goes, "Sir, how did you get all this?" Ethan gives a soft smile and says, "Someone once gave me a chance." When Mike asks who, Ethan gestures over to a framed photograph of Eleanor hanging proudly on his office wall, and he gives this beautiful testament to her memory, saying, "Someone who taught me that kindness doesn't disappear, it just gets passed on."
Which leads us to the final section. What about you? The invisible impact of your daily actions.
Because honestly, this explainer isn't just some heartwarming tale about Ethan and Eleanor. It is deeply and immediately relevant to you and your everyday life. If you're listening to this and feeling burned out, I really want this to sink in. Do you feel invisible right now? Are you grinding away at a job where literally nobody seems to appreciate your effort? Do you ever wonder if your small acts of kindness, like holding a door, checking in on a coworker, or just doing the right thing when it's super inconvenient, even matter at all? Well, I'm here to tell you they absolutely do. You never know who is watching. You never know what someone else is quietly going through.
So, I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on as you go about your routine today. Just pause for a second and ask yourself, whose life are you changing? Seriously, the invisible impact of your actions is very, very real. You might be the only positive human interaction someone has all week. You could literally be the reason someone decides not to give up today.
So whatever you do, never stop being kind. Keep checking in on the people around you. Keep doing the right thing in the dark, even when nobody says thank you, and even when you feel completely unnoticed. Because the smallest, tiniest act could be the spark for someone's entirely new life. Keep passing that kindness on, because as we've seen today, one day, someone might just remember the kindness you thought nobody noticed. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and I hope you carry this message out into the real world with you today.